Imagine being a child awakened in the middle of the night by a Black Hawk helicopter landing on your roof. Imagine an armed stranger entering your home and forcibly removing you from your bed, zip-tying your hands, separating you from your family, and detaining you in a dark van for hours. This didn't happen in some faraway authoritarian regime. It happened right here in Chicago, right here in the United States of America.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker describing the situation in his state with ICE conducting military-style raids, literally using Black Hawk helicopters in Chicago neighborhoods. President Trump saying he'll deploy hundreds of National Guard troops there, federalized troops both from Illinois and also from Texas, of all places. Today, a federal judge in Illinois declined for now to block the Trump administration from doing that. The judge will hold a hearing on the matter later this week, but that apparently means the deployment can go ahead in the meantime. Hours ago, with no ruling in place to bar the deployment, one U.S. military official told the New York Times that 200 Texas National Guard troops are expected to fly to the Chicago area tonight in military aircraft. Tonight, Governor Pritzker is, interestingly, calling on his fellow governors around the country to rally to Illinois' defense. In a letter to the National Governors Association, he says, quote, if the president continues overriding governors to deploy military assets into another state against the governor's will, we have abandoned the foundational principles that have protected our republic for nearly 250 years. This action must be denounced immediately and unequivocally by the National Governors Association. Should National Governors Association leadership choose to remain silent, Illinois will have no choice but to withdraw from the organization. Joining us now from Chicago is J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat, the governor of the great state of Illinois. Governor Pritzker, I know there's a lot going on. Thank you for making time to be here with us tonight.
Good to be with you, Rachel.
Let me ask you just first about this call to your fellow governors around the country. What are you asking them to do here to support you?
Well, let's start with we should stand as one against the idea that Donald Trump has the ability to call up our National Guard against our will. I want to remind you that just last year, Joe Biden tried to call up National Guard, federalize them, to take Air National Guard and move them into the Space Force. And all 50 governors signed onto a letter, including, I might add, Greg Abbott from Texas, saying that it was improper for the president of the United States to call on governors to either send their National Guard or to federalize the National Guard so that the president could use them however he wanted to. Now, this year, of course, Greg Abbott is a tool of Donald Trump. He's his lackey, and he is, in fact, doing exactly what Donald Trump wants and going against exactly what Greg Abbott said he would do last year. So this is a problem. The National Governors Association under Governor Stitt from Oklahoma, who's chair, seems unwilling to stand with the rest of us governors, Governor Kotek, Governor Newsom, and others, to prevent Trump from taking our National Guard, federalizing them, and then using them either against us or against other states.
Today, you sued to try to get a federal judge to block that deployment. It seems like we're going to have what will amount to a substantive hearing on that matter on Thursday. But here it is Monday night. It seems like in the meantime, there is reporting that some 200 Texas National Guard members are expected to fly to Chicago on military aircraft tonight. I know this is a very short-term question, but what is your plan in the short term for this interim period where you may have federalized National Guard troops on the ground before the court has actually ruled?
Well, the judge did warn the federal lawyers that if, in fact, they brought those National Guard and put them on the streets, that would be a really bad idea because there may be a ruling against them in just a couple of days. And I might add that if they do deploy them to the streets and then they are ruled against, I mean, how embarrassing to have to turn tail and run back to Texas 2 days after you've arrived in Chicago. So we'll see what they do. It would be improper for them to be deployed before there is a ruling, and we think that there will be a ruling on Thursday.
Governor, let me just ask you the big picture question here, which is that you have described, and we have seen in open reporting and on social media and even in exhibits filed with other people's lawsuits against these actions by the Trump administration, we have seen tactics against the people of Chicago that look very much like military tactics. Using Black Hawk helicopters, the apartment building that they ransacked, broke down all the doors, took all of the residents out of, the way that they've behaved on the street, using military-style vehicles and weapons in the faces of people on the streets of Chicago. That's before troops get there. And now Trump is saying that he wants to escalate further and put actual troops there. What do you think the goal is here? What do you think the risk is here to the country? And how do you think this is going to end?
Well, the broader goal, I believe, is the militarization of major American cities before the 2026 elections. Let me be clear about what's going on the streets of Chicago. They have dressed ICE and CBP in fatigues, put them in military gear, including with automatic weapons, and had them marching up and down major streets in downtown Chicago. It's a signal that they're trying to send that it's okay to have troops on your street, that this would be a welcome thing for people who live in Chicago. Nobody here welcomes it, by the way. I mean, literally, as they're walking down the street, people are yelling at them. But they think they can get people used to the idea. And next year, I fear that what they're going to do is deploy these folks eventually to polling places and say they're protecting the vote. Donald Trump knows that without shenanigans and without these breaches of the Constitution, that he's going to lose the Congress. And if he loses, he's going to immediately, in the aftermath of the election, do what he said he might do in 2020, which is use the military to confiscate the ballot boxes and count the votes, claiming that there's fraud. Remember, he's called up all 50 states' election data to the Department of Justice because they want to review all 50 states for fraud. And they won't tell you exactly what they're going to do, but I fear that these are all connected. And this militarization, even without National Guard or military troops on the ground, you're seeing ICE act like a militaristic organization. You're seeing CBP act like it. One more thing. CBP, I want to remind you, the Customs and Border Patrol, they're supposed to only operate within about 100 miles of a border. We're not anywhere near a border here in Chicago. So how can they operate here? Well, they're claiming that Lake Michigan, the shores of Lake Michigan in Chicago, those shores are the border of the United States. But Canada is an awful long way from here across Lake Michigan. So we know that they're using it again as a pretext. They want CBP here. Those are the folks that you saw in uniform marching up and down the streets. Greg Bovino, who led the effort in Los Angeles for the Customs and Border Patrol and ICE, is leading the effort here in Chicago. And you saw what happened in Los Angeles. They incited people, and they're doing that here in Chicago. We want them. I mean, if they're going to do that, they got to go. We honestly, they got to get the hell out of Chicago if that is their aim. But that is what Donald Trump, I believe, is trying to do, incite it so they can bring more troops in, invoke the Insurrection Act, and militarize Chicago and other major cities.
Governor, if that's the stakes that we're talking about here, that's about somebody trying to hold power by force and ending democracy, thereby ending democracy. What should the scale of the response be? You've asked people to continue to protest peacefully, to make sure they film what these guys are doing. You're asking your fellow governors to join you on this. You've sued the government to try to get a federal judge on your side. Are there other things that the country can be doing to say no to this, given the existential stakes that you're talking about in terms of whether or not we remain the United States of America?
Well, there are two things I would say. One is we have to rely on the courts. And you've seen in the cases in Oregon that even a Trump-appointed judge followed the law and followed the Constitution. And we have to rely on the courts to do the same here in Illinois. I would say there's another thing that we all are paying attention to, and that is making sure that we're electing people in 2026 who actually will follow the law and follow the Constitution in the United States Congress. We're only a few votes away from having a majority like that. And frankly, I think there are some Republicans who, yes, they are afraid of Donald Trump right now, but there are some who actually have a conscience. And I think that they're beginning to talk about breaking away from President Trump. Those things, I mean, whether we're going to win those Republicans over, maybe not, or we're going to win the elections in 2026, the courts and the Congress are going to be vital for us maintaining our democracy.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker joining us live tonight, right at the center of the storm. Sir, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rachel.